Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to get started with your lab for this week. I am only going to do part of it, and you will have to finish it. So the lab is asking you to create some frequency distributions, basically, and some charts and tables for 3 variables in the general social survey. So the first thing you need to do is go to the website for the general social survey and find how these variables were asked, right? There's 3 variables: variable God, spanking, and Bible. So I'm going to start there. But before I do, what we need to do is create a Google Doc, right? Or a Word document. If you have Word, you can use Word. It's actually a little easier. If not, we can do everything in a Google Doc. So I'm going to create one, right, from my drive. I created a new one, and I called it Lab 4. And I titled it Lab 4, and then my name. For the first task I ask you to do is go to the GSS website and look for these 3 variables: God, spanking, and Bible. So I went to the General Social Survey, to the Data Explorer, and then I searched for the variables. And in this case, I wanted to search for the variable God to see how the question was asked in the survey. So there you go. The variable God was asked like this: please look at this card and tell me which statement comes closest to expressing what you believe about God. And these are all the options that respondents were giving. So I'm just going to copy this and put it in my assignment. So here I answered: to operationalize the beliefs in God, the GSS asked the following question. Please look at this card, and these are the options. So now I know exactly how the question was asked, and now I can do a frequency distribution for it. And I'm going to do a table that has the absolute frequency, a table that has the relative frequency as well, a bar chart showing the distribution. Right? So I have the question already, so now I'm going to go to the data set. We looked at how to do that, and this is on iLearn. So I go to iLearn, I click on the data set, and then I'm going to save a copy for myself, right? So you make a copy, and then you can use it. Once we have the data set ready, I'm going to create the table using the pivot table tools, right? And there it is. The variable God is at the end of the data set. All right, so to create the pivot table, I select the whole data. Then I am going to go to data. Then I'm going to go to data and then pivot table. It selected the whole data set, and I want this new pivot table in a new worksheet. So that happens here, and this is my worksheet right there. So I am going to do 2 things. I'm going to create the tables here for the assignment, but I'm not going to present this part. I am going to do 2 steps, right? And this is I'm going to create a worksheet that is called answers. You're welcome to do it in 1 step, but I think it's easier to do it this way. So I'm going to create the frequency distribution for the variable God. And as we discussed in the previous video, the way to do that is I'm going to go to the rows and add the categories for the variable God. I click on there, and then I have all these categories for that variable. And then I'm going to go to values, and I'm going to add some values. And the values I want counted for those categories are the same, are for the same variable for God. So I click on that, and now you have a absolute frequency for that variable, right? But I'm also going to add a relative frequency. So what we do is we go to values again, click on add, click on God again, and there you have it. You have the variable God twice there, right? So on the first one, I'm going to have the relative frequency. So for the first one, right, see, God is there twice. Now both are the counts, both are identical, and neither showing the raw numbers first, right? But I went for the first one, I want it as a percent of column, so that it gives me the relative frequency. So now I have exactly you know, what percentage of respondents chose each of the categories, but some of them are useless, right? So for example, this don't know, that is a non-valid answer, and is not apply. We don't need it either, because people were not asked these questions. So that's not about, that's distorting the distribution of people who actually answered the question. So the don't know or the not apply, we're going to filter them out. And the way to do it is to come here to the data editor once more, and on filters, add a filter. And for the variable God, we click on God, and then it's showing us all of the categories. But I'm going to uncheck NA, because this is people who didn't answer the survey or were not asked the question. And then I'm going to filter out the don't know. So I'm only going to use valid responses, people who gave valid responses to the question, right? So if I click OK, then I have my nice table there. So before I go to my to paste it on the Google Doc, I can copy this, go to my answers. This is where I'm going to keep all my answers. And I'm going to, instead of just pasting it, I'm going to go edit and paste special, and paste the values only. Right now, the table is there. It's just a raw table. And I'm going to express this as percent. I'm going to say percent here and frequency here. And there you go. So the only thing left for me here is to label that table. So I'm going to put table 1, frequency distribution for believes in God. And I'm going to put the N, because it's always good practice to do that. And there you go. You have your table here. Now, I'm also going to create a chart for this frequency distribution. So I am just going to select, we can select the categories, not the total, just the categories. And because I want a relative frequency, I'm selecting this first, the relative frequency column. If I wanted to get the absolute frequency, then I would move this column here. But no, I want the relative frequencies, and then insert a chart. And there you go. Google Sheets actually got the title that we have for that table. So we just need to change this a little bit. I'm going to click twice there, and then I'm going to call figure 1. Frequency distribution for beliefs in God. Now I can do some other things here. You know, I don't need that part there, so I can, you know, the title text, it's good, but I don't need that title there. So that one, I'm going to take it out. One other thing that we can do, though, is, you know, click twice again to go to the editor. And we can erase those things and put numbers in there. You can go to the series. We can add data labels, and that gives us the percentages right there so that we don't have to use these lines. And for those lines, these major grid lines, I clicked on there and I can take them out. I can also click on there and change the size. Right now it's automatic. Text color, I don't want any. And boom. And that part, I don't want any. So I'm just gonna keep it flat. And that's it. Now I'm ready to go to my, I'm ready to go to my Word or my Google Doc to paste this. Let's start with the table. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna copy the table. And then go to MyLab file and paste. Oh, Command B. I don't want it linked to the Google Sheet. Now, that's not very nice, right? So we're gonna work a little bit with it. And the way to work with tables in Google Docs, it's very limited. We can't do lots of things, but we can do a few things to make this one a little nicer. So first of all, what we can do is get all the percentage signs out of here. Because we already have a percentage label up there. So I'm gonna delete that. This will be 54.5. This will be 6.5. And this can be 12.9. And this one is 100. All right, good. Okay, those borders there, and this one, we're gonna need to merge those cells. So the way to work with tables in Google Docs is to, whatever cells you want to work with, you can go to format, and then there is a place for table there. And that's where you have your tools. So you merge cells here. So now that's there. Now, it's very limited what we can do with borders. So one thing that we can do though is just erase all the borders or change the border color. So all these vertical lines are very distracting. So I'm gonna take the lines from this part, and here you will find border color. That's a way to do that. Or you can also play with the border width. But the border color, I'm just going to make it white for those cells. I'm also going to make it white for this top part. And for these ones, I'm going to make them black. Now, there's very little we can do about those vertical lines, but that is something that the software is limited with. So we have table 1. Now, we can also copy our chart here, and we can copy the chart and go to our Google Doc and do a Command V and say we don't want it linked to our Google Sheet. So it's pasted as an image. So that's how you would go about your lab. And this is what happens with the variable God. Now let's look at some of the responses, right? 55% say that they know that God exists, right? And 17.7% believe in God, but they have doubts, right? It is, you can say that the United States is a pretty religious country, right? Only about 4.7% are atheists, right? They do not believe in God. And about 6.5% are agnostics, right? There's no way to find out. So anyway, this is how you would go about doing your lab. Now you only have to do it for 2 more variables.